Here are some don'ts of definition writing from section 6.5, deficient definitions of ISO 704. One don't, circular definitions. A circular definition is when a word from the designation is used in the definition, i.e. circular definition, a definition that is circular. Embedded definitions. Embedded definitions is when you define a second set of concepts within a definition. Here we have the example of concept diagram, a graphical representation of generic or genus species, partitive or part whole, and associative relationships among the concepts of a subject field. In this definition, I've embedded the definition of two other concepts, generic and partitive, which just confuses the definition in itself. Inaccurate definitions, these are definitions that are either too narrow or too broad. Too narrow of a definition would be one in which characteristics that have been selected exclude objects that should be part of the extension. That is, defining something like vehicle as a type of machine with a motor and wheels that transports people and things from place to place. This example excludes non-motorized vehicles that do not have wheels. Definitions that are too broad or characteristics selected to describe the concept allow for concepts that should not be part of the extension. So in this case, if we define table as a piece of furniture for studying, in the example, a desk would not satisfy the definition, but in the example, a desk would satisfy the definition, but a desk is not technically a table. Negative definitions. Describing what a concept is not what it is. In the example, you can see that I've defined avocado as a type of food that is not a vegetable. It's a fruit, in fact, but this negative definition would be in not compliance with best practices for definition writing. And then for terminology work, we also want to avoid the use of synonyms in definitions as opposed to general language dictionaries, which are often based upon the identification of synonyms and share meaning among words. Describing the words of a designation and not the concept the designation represents is not a best practice of definition writing. In this case, we have posynonym, which is indeed a synonym for synonym. However, we are no closer to a definition for synonym with the use of a synonym for that word in the definition. So here are some of the do's of definition writing from ISO 704. Give the information necessary for placing the concept within a concept system, i.e. you'll need the superordinate concept and the delimiting characteristics. If the term base or glossary does not have a field for the subject field, indicate the subject field at the beginning of the definition inside of carets. Write a definition that is as concise as possible while containing all necessary information. Within your definition, to be is always going to be assumed in the relationship between the designation and the definition, so don't include that phrase in the definition. For example, in the term plus definition pair, designation, label for a concept, to be and the articles a from the following sentence are assumed. So a designation is a label for a concept. You'll want to write a statement that is not a complete sentence in your definition, and you'll match the part of speech of the designation in the beginning of the definition. So if you're defining a noun, your definition should start with a noun, with no article preceding the noun. If you're defining a verb, your definition should start with the word to followed by a verb. If you're defining an adjective, your definition should start with something like being or occurring, of or relating to, having, etc. How to write an intentional definition. To review, an intentional definition starts with the immediate superordinate concept to the concept being defined and then gives the delimiting characteristics that distinguish the concept being defined from its coordinate concepts. For example, in a concept system in which types of language service providers include single language vendors, multi-language vendors, translation service providers, and language service companies, the definition of language service company should situate the concept as a subordinate concept to language service provider, and then give the characteristics that distinguish a language service company from other types of LSPs. If these delimiting characteristics were based upon ASTM F3130 18 standard practice for language service companies, they would include the following: having grossed $100,000 per year for 3 years, with an infrastructure that includes HR, IT, customer service, quality management, and vendor management, holding liability insurance, and complying with applicable laws in the provisioning of services. And this would be a stipulative definition as well, since it's based upon the context of an American national standard. Finally, to check if a definition is well-formed, replace the designation with its definition in a sentence. If your definition is well-formed, the sentence will make grammatical sense. If not, your definition is ill-formed. In the example object, anything perceived or conceived, the word object is the designation and the phrase anything perceived or conceived is the definition. To check if the definition is well formed, I can replace the word object with its definition in the sentence, one corner of the semantic triangle is for objects. Doing such, I get the sentence, one corner of the semantic triangle is for anything perceived or conceived. The resulting sentence may be longer and not so elegant, but since it makes grammatical sense, that's a really good sign that the definition is well formed. That concludes this lesson on concept systems, characteristics, and definitions. Thank you for listening.